Hey everybody, welcome to another Good e-reader comparison video. My name is Michael.
And this is Peter.
Today we're going to check out the Apple iPad mini versus the Amazon Kindle Fire HD 7. We're going to evaluate the hardware, software, show you ebooks, magazines, and a whole lot more, as well as the UI. You can see both of these devices are relatively the same. They're within the same class, and you can bet your bottom dollar that they developed this just to compete against this. So we're going to show you the reasons why. To give you a sense of specs, you have 7.9-inch display versus a 7-inch display. Resolution on the iPad mini is 1024 by 768, where the resolution on the Kindle Fire HD is 1280 by 800. So a bit of a difference there. And you basically have on the iPad mini a dual core processor, and you relatively have the same sort of processor on the Kindle Fire HD. All other specs are relatively comparable. Front facing webcam, rear facing webcam, the ability to do a lot. Now there are some fundamental differences, and Peter will get into that during the 360.
All right. Looking at them head on, it's immediately noticeable that this is a landscape device. You will see that it looks more upright when it is landscape. And you have the camera up top in the middle, whereas this looks like an oversized iPhone, like a flattened out pancake iPhone. But either way, you have piano black finish with plastic edging bezel. You have the USB ports on the bottom. You have a micro USB and a micro HDMI. On the left, you have nothing, and we'll get into this after. On the top, you have a microphone. And on this side, you have volume up and down, power standby, 3.5mm headphone jack, and the main attraction, dual stereo speakers. 2 in this side, 2 in this side. First tablet ever to have Dolby Digital surround sound built into it. Amazing sound quality, very loud, very clear. On the Apple iPad mini, you have front-facing camera, Apple button. On the left, you have nothing much going on. On the right and the top, here's where everything kind of happens. You have, we'll start over here, you have the 3.5mm headphone jack. You also have microphone, power button / standby, rear-facing camera. The switch you can assign to either orientation lock, silence, all that kind of stuff. Volume up, volume down, and on the bottom you actually have finally stereo speakers. Only 2 speakers on this guy, but it is an upgrade from the Apple iPad 3 in terms of audio, because you're getting stereo sound, and you have the lightning connector at the bottom. And here is the back.
Yeah, pretty well all Apple products up until this point had a single speaker. Whether you look at the iPod Touch, iPhones, any of the versions of the iPad. So this is an awesome step, and I really do think that the dual speakers was primarily because of the new Lightning. It's just so much smaller that it does leave room for more speakers. So obviously the Kindle Fire has superb sound quality, and if you've ever looked at our review video of the Kindle Fire HD, we turn it up to the max and it shakes the room. This is it's a welcome upgrade, but it does not even come close to the Kindle Fire HD, and we'll show you that. So the next thing that we're going to do is show you the UI, content ecosystem, ebooks, and a whole lot more. Fundamental differences, and that's what we see here with the home screens. Very unique. We have iOS, which the same interface is fairly consistent, not only with the iPad mini, iPhone, iPod Touch, and all of their other sort of iOS-based devices. This looks exactly the same. This is very unique. Amazon has revised their main interface for the Amazon Kindle Fire HD. Walk us through what we're seeing here.
This is as far back home as you can go. This is called the carousel. So it's a list of things you have opened, used, played, seen, listened to, and so forth. That's going to play all your recent, it's going to show all your recent apps that you visited and all that. You can click on them just as easy as clicking on anything, and they'll open right up. So if you click on a book, it'll go right back to where you were. And up top, you have the layout of what you can explore: shop, games, apps, newsstand, and so forth. And then on the bottom, you have things that the internet is kind of showing you, customers have bought or recommended titles or so forth.
Okay, so now that you mentioned apps, let's show the big difference between the two app stores.
So you go to shop here. Now, without diving into any of the specific categories,
Right.
this is the first thing you see when you go to just shop in the most general sense. If you go into videos and music and books, they all look different. It's like they have their own little store for each different genre. For example, if we go to videos, it's going to look completely different than what it will look like with music and with books. So there really isn't one all-in-one store on the Amazon, as you can see.
Yeah, with the iPad, I mean, you have iTunes in the App Store. iTunes is where you're going to get your music, movies, TV shows, audiobooks. Podcasts is its own independent app, but you can see that there's really not... It looks different, but there's things you can see. There's 4 or 5 on each one. It's
Yeah.
almost the same thing there. You have more of the scrolling panoramic carousel here. A lot of similarities.
I would say so. Yeah, I mean they're listing things organized, or they're pretty organized. They go left and right like that. I mean, just no more needs to really be said.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an example. We're not going to dive into every submenu.
No.
We don't want to do an hour-long video, but suffice to say, the two ecosystems are more similar than they are really different.
Right.
I mean, this is running Android, so you are going to be able to sideload in your own apps. You could, download app stores like the Goody Reader app store, and this would allow you to, basically download apps like all over the place. And so, it has its advantages being able to load in your own apps, because this is something that you can't do with the iPad mini. You have to pretty well buy apps exclusively through Apple. So let's check out some of the things that set these devices apart. The first thing we're going to do is look at eBooks. So we're going to fire up the Kindle app and load up a book.
So you see we're chapter 1 on both, so we're synchronized in the pages.
Before we even get started, what do you think about the mini display versus the Kindle Fire 7?
They're pretty much the same. The resolution on the Kindle Fire is a little bit bigger, longer and wider than the mini. So the text doesn't really look that much more crisp, but the only visible difference is that this has a stronger contrast. This is more of a black on white, whereas this one's more of a black on a darker white.
Yeah, I mean, the brightness settings and everything within the app are pretty well the same. You can see that this is almost like a bit wider.
Right. Well, I mean, they're trying to market it as a 7-inch reader, but it really isn't a 7-inch tablet. This is a 7.9. So I would understand that they did that to kind of up the competition of all the other 7 inches out there, because they can always say, well, ours is bigger, because it is. But essentially, this is a 7-inch screen. This is a 7.9. That's kind of almost a hidden 8-inch.
Okay.
So.
In terms of the ebook experience, do we see a lot of similar features from device to device?
Press and hold on either one brings you that kind of, it's almost like a right click. So you get the definition down below, you get the definition up above here. You can get the full definition if you want to go to another website. Same with this, you can go Google and Wikipedia or full definition. You can make notes on each. Keyboards are pretty much the same. You can make highlights. And you can share Twitter, Facebook. You can search in book, search Wikipedia, search on the web, or you can share onto Amazon directly on the Kindle Fire, and you can see what other people have shared on the same book.
Speaking of books, one of the things that the Kindle Fire does is really sort of envelop you in the Amazon ecosystem. You can take advantage of features like X-Ray, which basically give you a solid indication of who the main characters are in this book, how often they're referenced. minor characters, you could see these blue things. What this means is how much the character was referenced throughout the book. So obviously Rachel Case is probably the main character, and it's followed by main character, sub main character, minor, tertiary, people that you can see Mr. Clean and people that made reference to Mr. Clean and on what pages they were. So you could location 315, you can click on it and then go exactly to that page and see where they're being referenced. This is super handy for people who are juggling more than one book at a time and find themselves, who are these characters again? What exactly is going on? It's sort of like the Cliff Notes version, whereas the Amazon app for the iPad does not have that. No. So this is more of a fully functional e-reader, but you are locked into Amazon. This is more like you can do business with whoever you want, but in essence, Apple's getting your cut of money. So this is the Amazon app experience. The next thing that we're going to do is look at comic books, and we have both of these in portrait mode, which comics traditionally look mighty fine.
On this one, you can access it via apps and look at all the apps you have, or you can look at your most recently used apps on the carousel and click it via that way.
Okay, so to be fair though, is the Marvel app available in the Amazon App Store?
We did search the Amazon App Store and it was not available. We actually had to utilize the Good e-Reader App Store to grab that application off of there.
Okay, so you could see that it's the same cover art side by side. We'll let the viewers decide, what they want. I mean, we all have our opinions, but ultimately it's you, the watchers out there, that are thinking about buying either of these two devices.
Yeah, I actually might throw out my opinion though. I think the Kindle Fire has richer colors, and it's actually I can very much notice the resolution difference.
All right, well, let's turn a few pages.
Although you do see here, it's a little choppy when you're changing pages.
And this is smooth.
Yeah, not that it's any slower really, and it's not blurry or anything like that. It's just purely a little choppier when you change pages. It's not going to take you out of the comic or anything, or prevent you from saying, "Oh, this is the worst ever. I'm not going to read anymore." But definitely, you'll notice
the iPad Mini is really smoother.
Oh, much smoother, yeah. But you'll see the crispness in his hair, for example, on the Kindle Fire actually looks a little bit better. Look at that.
Okay, now both of these, even though that we're using the same app, it may look a little different. So this is sort of like the guided view technology.
They both kind of have the same thing where they go.
Well, it's the Marvel app, right?
Well,
so
panel to panel.
But you can see this is more, the iPad Mini is a little bit more fluid.
It is more fluid, yeah. But I mean, look at the reds on his helmet compared to that one. It's almost looking a little bit magenta. I think the colors are a lot more vibrant on the Kindle Fire.
Yeah, I think I agree. One of the things that I do like is a bit of the bigger screen.
Oh yeah,
so
it definitely goes edge to edge, whereas you get this chunky bezel on the Kindle Fire, and that's mostly because they have bigger speakers and just a lot more under the hood.
Yeah, so I mean, I love comics, and I like being able to use the Marvel Comics app because basically all my purchases that are way across platforms. So I like that. So that's comics. The next thing that we're going to do is check out magazines via Zinio.
And once again, we'll go on the carousel because we've opened that before. Looks like we have to go try to find the same thing here. You see that they are different from the one available on the Apple iPad Mini and the one available here on the, oh, we have to click that, on the Kindle American Photo. We'll go down to single issues here. It's a little more workaround, but we get to the same place, and we'll preview both of those side by side here. Once again, I think the colors are coming through just a little bit better on the Kindle. However, you do see far more on the Apple iPad Mini because it's a different class.
Can
it's
you
an
ditch
8-inch.
that's there? like the home button and the star? Or is that persistent?
I guess on the preview, you know what? It's not looking like you can drop that down. You can double tap to zoom in, and it's not looking like if you leave that, it's going away. So
It's one thing to bear in mind. I
yes,
suppose.
absolutely. You're getting more
Yikes.
use. Oh,
Okay, maybe let's.
these guys are having fun.
All right. Well, here's a good picture. That's very
Oh,
rich
yeah.
colors.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to say.
It is hard to say. The comics were a little bit more evident that the Kindle Fire displayed it a little better, but it does look like it's more reds, more oranges, where the red's almost coming across pink over here. And this is the same shot. There's no split screen going on here. I'd say the Kindle Fire, we've seen so far in just most of the menus, the book, the magazines, and the comics, it's just coming across a little more clear.
Yeah.
Of course, the Apple's displaying far more on the screen because it's almost an inch bigger. But you can
And that may
definitely see it.
appeal to a lot more
Yeah.
people, especially the older that you get, the more that your vision suffers. And I think the iPad Mini, in terms of comic books, eBooks, magazines, it's a bigger screen by almost an inch, and so you can pack more pixels on it, so you can fit more text on the screen. Pictures are inherently a little bit bigger. Maybe the resolution is not as good, but you don't really notice these things unless you're doing things like we're doing.
Oh,
we're putting them
absolutely.
side by side with the same image and going over the nuances between the two.
Exactly. If you didn't see any of this on this side, you wouldn't have any complaints. It's only because we're being nitpicky, because that's what this comparison is about.
Yeah, I
to
mean-
nitpick the subtle differences, point out the flaws and the pros and the cons. I mean, this is what we're doing this for. But as Michael said, on a one-on-one, if you just had the Kindle Fire, you'd say, wow, that's an amazing picture. You just had the iPad, you'd say, wow, that's an amazing picture.
Yeah, it's not a night and day, but
No.
it's subtle differences. But if you're thinking about buying either of these devices for the first time, or you're thinking, I have an iPad 3, should I get the iPad Mini? In order to make that call, you got to watch our YouTube videos at youtube.com/goodyreader. One of the last things that we want to do is to show you the internet experience.
So you go over here to web, and then that will transport you to our favorite website.
And hopefully yours as well.
Yes, indeed. You can see that the Kindle starts over to the top left, where I think there's enough screen on this one to display the whole thing. So you had to kind of pinch and zoom out there for a sec.
Okay, so we're basically fully
zoomed out, yeah.
Okay, so obviously, I don't want to harp on it, but you can see the differences here.
It's a much larger screen.
How's the fluidness between just basically scrolling?
There's a little bit of white spacing, but it seems that once it's loaded, it's gone. There's nothing.
All right.
There's nothing going on. Top to bottom, already rendered. So yeah, it seems like things are good to go.
Basically, both devices will play embedded YouTube videos.
See, this one transports you to a more cinematic experience here. And this one plays right on the screen.
Right. So that's a huge difference.
Yeah, it is. It is a big difference.
So I like being able to watch the video directly within the site, and then if I want to, to have the option to make it full screen.
Right.
Whereas the Kindle Fire pretty well locks you into that full
it
screen
does.
view.
It does indeed, yes.
So that things like that bear mentioning, because they YouTube and embedded videos in the websites are a big thing. Almost every major website embeds videos and such into it. So we just wanted to point that out. So we've pretty well compared reading on the web, ebooks, magazines, the store, the general UI. Where do you think these two stack up to each other? I know you're a huge Android fan.
I am a huge Android fan. I've never been a fan of Apple. I have nothing against the products. The products are always very well made. They're always very high quality plastics, and it's kind of an all-in-one. But I do like the flexibility of being able to sideload apps, put anything you want on here anytime you want, hook it up to your computer, and just dump all the footage and all the videos and apps and APK files and manually install them. I like having that kind of flexibility. But stacking these up next to each other, I would say this is just displaying. It's a smaller screen with higher resolution. Oh, we got about 15% battery there. This is a larger screen with lower resolution, which is why you lose some of that crispness, because when you're taking a small resolution and expanding it out, much like this is doing to a certain degree, you're actually just pixelating it, because you're expanding an image that can't really be expanded anymore. Not to the extent where you're going to see that it's like an 8-bit Nintendo style, but no, it is definitely noticeable on certain applications like we showed you. The colors were noticeable on the magazines, the pixelation was noticeable on comics. Nothing to a great degree, but if you're talking about differences, I would say that this just displays things a little more clearly. And if you go to the store here, you'll be transported to the games branch of the Amazon store. Like we've said, the main store is just kind of like the gateway, and this is where everything kind of happens. So you get the same kind of featured list you have here. You know, left and rights on all these, they all scroll.
Okay, so here's my thoughts. We live in Canada, and I found that with the Kindle Fire HDs that you could not make a lot of purchases.
You can't make any purchases outside of books, magazines, or newspapers with a Canadian credit card.
Right. So if you live outside the US and the UK, you're fairly limited on the content that you purchase. Now, Shopee Readers does have solutions to allow you to buy American credit cards and addresses in order to purchase all the content. But with the Apple iPad, especially the mini edition here, we live in Canada. I can buy anything. I'm not limited to anything. I could use my iTunes account. I'm pretty well good to go. And so being an international customer, having access to a wide array of content without jumping through a lot of hoops is very important to me. I'm a fan of both Android and Apple. I'm, no bones about it. I'm not loyal to any one particular ecosystem, but a Goody Reader. I mean, we
use every OS. We have everything from the BlackBerry Playbook. I mean, all the way up to even the brand new Microsoft Surface that actually just came out not too long ago. So we've had experiences with Windows 8, BlackBerry,
QNX,
to a lesser extent, WebOS on the HP touchpad. I mean, pretty much everything. And we've seen it all.
Yeah. So I mean, to be honest, I do like the iPad Mini. It's a bit wider of a screen, but I found that going from the iPad 3 to the iPad Mini, it was not easy, because I'm used to like the 9.7-inch screen. It's just like videos, Retina display, all that jazz. I thought it looked great. With the iPad Mini, it's a bit smaller, but I would probably say that it's like apples and oranges. It's the Apple ecosystem versus the Amazon ecosystem. Both bring totally unique things to the table, and it's just all a matter of perspective. It's like, which one do you like better? With Amazon, it's a little bit more geared towards like audiobooks, ebooks, magazines, newspapers. With Apple, it's like they offer newspapers and podcasts and things like that. But Amazon is like your all-in-one shop for like everything to do with like reading and media, whereas like Apple is reliant on like third-party companies for the most part. And so we'll leave it up to the readers to decide which one that you like better.
Exactly. One more thing before we wrap up, and probably the most important thing.
I was driving home in a Dodge Stratus.
Oh, Beck, how I love thee.
I think it sounds pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah. So let's check out how the sound is on this guy right here.
All right, with that in mind, leave a comment on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/goodyreader, and check out our website at goodyreader.com for goodyreader.com and a review of the iPad Mini versus the Amazon Kindle Fire HD7. My name is Michael.
This is Peter.
Everybody take care.